Good morning, happy Saturday, and welcome back to Bald Feather Bets. We will give you all of our plays today on College Football Saturday. Most of them we've already given you throughout the week because we anticipated line movement, and we were right on essentially almost every single one. And we're going to add a few more here. Today, we're actually going to add 3 plays, one of which we will give you right now. The other 2 we're going to talk about and probably finalize later with a community post later in the day. There are a couple of evening games that we're still kind of watching the line movement on. But first, if you don't mind, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, notifications on, and just give this video some love, like, share, comment. Appreciate you guys very much. Love the interaction. Let me know your thoughts on today. Let me know your thoughts on week 4, College Football Saturday. Who you think's gonna win? Who you think's gonna lose? Who's on upset alert? All those sorts of things. So getting into it, we'll start off with our noon kick. Our noon kick games. We have 3 plays in that window. We like SMU plus 7.5. That's going to be for 2 units. Most of what everyone has in mind is the only time most people saw TCU was opening weekend Monday night against North Carolina. And I think people had some notions that North Carolina was going to field a team, and they have not fielded a team. They have fielded a collective of people who are trying to play football. So I put very little stock into what TCU did in that game, because TCU is a competent, mature program that is in the prime of its era under Sonny Dykes, and North Carolina is in the first year of a full rebuild. So I don't put a lot of stock into that. Then the other thing is what people watch with SMU is losing to Baylor. But really, if you remember the Baylor game, they probably should have won the game. We were on Baylor, but we got very lucky in that. SMU probably should have won that game. I just think 7.5 is too much for a bitcher rivalry. So for people who are not familiar with Texas or anything like that, SMU and TCU are both in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They are both very, how do I say this? Both pretty culty schools. TCU people and SMU people tend to graduate and stay in the state of Texas, and their degrees mean a lot within the state of Texas. SMU people take care of SMU people, TCU people take care of TCU people, and they're both very proud schools of their area, of their heritage, but this is a bitter rivalry for Dallas. TCU, SMU has very smartly taken on the moniker, and they have the jerseys that say Dallas on them, right? Like they're marketing Dallas, and that's intelligent of them to do so, because pretty much everyone in the United States knows what Dallas is. Not everyone knows in the United States that Southern Methodist University is even located in Texas. So, and I can tell you TCU doesn't necessarily love that, because they're in Fort Worth, and they probably wouldn't hate to be able to market Dallas too, but it would be a little bit of a cheat since they're in DFW, the FW side of the DFW. So, bitter rivalry. 7.5 is a lot for a rivalry like that, and we like SMU, and we really like SMU's ability to run. Clemson minus 17. This one is also for 2 units. This is just not enough points. People are devaluing Clemson too much after the first games, especially given that Clemson was not healthy in those games. They are healthy. Mainly they bring back Antonio Williams. And Antonio Williams very much so makes that offense run, because you have to play their offense differently when he's in versus when he's out. It should open up lanes for them in the run game. Cade has a safety blanket now. He has someone that they can win 50-50 balls. Clemson is still a really good team, guys. They may not have looked good so far, but they're a very good team. Not everyone looks good the first 3 weeks. That ends up being very good at the end of the year. And Syracuse is not good at all. The other thing with Syracuse is they are a pass-heavy offense. And say what you want about Clemson, but they haven't really had issues defending the pass all that much so far this year. They gave up not that many points to LSU. They gave up not that many defensive points to Troy. Troy had a defensive touchdown in that game, if you guys remember. And even in their loss to Georgia Tech, they only gave up 24. And it isn't like Georgia Tech's not throwing the ball at anybody because they're running a triple option, a pseudo triple option. But Syracuse doesn't really have the ability to run the ball. Everything's on Steve Angeli, just like everything was on Kyle McCord last year. I think this one gets ugly. I think Clemson gets a few turnovers here, potentially defensive touchdowns. I think this one gets ugly. Clemson makes a statement today. We like them minus the 17 for 2 units. Then to finish out the noon window, and what is probably the biggest game of the day, I think it'll be the best game of the day, for sure. There's a chance Florida-Miami gets good. We're going to talk about that one later. But this one has the highest probability of being the best game of the day. These teams are very evenly matched with Utah and Texas Tech. Very evenly matched. I actually think Texas Tech is probably the better team, but we are going to lay the 2.5 with Utah, and we're going to do it for 5 units. And the reason we are doing that is because the game is at Utah, and it is early in the season. Texas Tech, with all the talent they have, is still a team that is kind of coming together. If you look at Utah under Kyle Whittingham, they don't really lose at home. They got their ass handed to them that 1 year with Oregon, but that was because those two teams didn't belong on the same field that year. And Utah had backup quarterback stuff going on, all that stuff. Like, that wasn't a fair comparison. Outside of that, Utah doesn't really lose at home. The other thing I would tell you is, if we are correct about this and Utah gets a win today, you want to immediately get your Texas Tech Big 12 title ticket right then, because there's a very good chance these two teams are going to play each other again in Dallas, and them matching up in Dallas will be much different than them matching up in Utah. I like Dampier's ability to essentially shorten the game a bit with quick, easy throws and then extending plays with his legs. And it's not that I don't like Texas Tech's defensive front. I do. I think statistically they have, which in college football right now, the whole statistics, comparing statistics to other teams' statistics is a waste of time, because the competition level is completely different. Texas Tech hasn't played anybody. The statistics would tell you that Texas Tech has a better rush defense than Notre Dame, because Notre Dame has played Texas A&M and Miami, and Texas Tech has played literally no one. And so the statistics tell you they have the second best run defense in the country, but do they? We don't know that. It will get tested today at Utah. I do think they are good. I think they have a very good defensive line and a very good defensive front, but I don't necessarily think that it's in the top 5 in the country. I think it's probably the best in the Big 12, which is why this is such a good matchup between Utah and Texas Tech, because Utah does have the best offensive line in the Big 12. And I just Utah at home in this exact situation. Week 4, early in the year, noon kickoff, 10 a.m. local kickoff in Utah. The Musk going crazy. Big noon kickoff there. Whittingham and what I think is what I think is probably his last year. Maybe he goes another one. I have a feeling this is Whittingham's last year. I just like this spot. Like I said, if we get this rematch in Dallas, we're probably going to go a different direction with it later in the year. But for now, Utah minus 2.5 for 5 units. All right, let's go into the afternoon kicks, the 3:30 kicks. We'll start with Tulane and Ole Miss. We like Tulane plus the 13 for 2 units. Obviously, Austin Simmons out, but I don't really think that has too much of an impact on Ole Miss. I just don't think Ole Miss can stop anyone from running the ball. So Ole Miss probably wins. They probably win this game 45-42. If I had, I think Tulane's the best Group of 5 team. I said that preseason, I think, with you guys on one of our future Outlook videos. I think it's between. I thought preseason it was between them and Toledo, and now I'm pretty solidly on Tulane. They're live as a dog, for sure. They're live as a dog, but I don't necessarily think they'll ultimately get the win, because I do think Ole Miss is kind of going to be able to score at will here. But I also think Tulane's going to be able to score at will. I just think there'll be a few more plays that Ole Miss makes that wins the game. But when we're getting Tulane plus 13, we're not going to pass that up that opportunity. Really good coaching staff at Tulane. Obviously, really good quarterback with what happened at BYU. I mean, God, Tulane got lucky with that. And a Ole Miss team that does not have a history of being up for every single game that they play. So, anyway, we like Tulane plus the 13 for 2 units. We like Auburn plus 7 against Oklahoma for 2 units. I don't love it, because I do think Venables will want to make a statement against Jackson Arnold. I also just don't know if the OU offense is going to look as good as people are. People are talking about how John Mateer has played very well, and he looks very good. This is a bit of a different defense that he's about to face today. Michigan does not have a good secondary, contrary to what people may think or tell you. They're not good. So the Mateer wasn't really tested in terms of a turnover aspect, nor was there a lot of pressure on him, which that part of it did surprise me a little bit, that Michigan didn't generate more pressures. Auburn is a better defense than Michigan, by quite a bit, actually. I think there's an opportunity here that they equalize this game a bit with turnovers, and I don't think you're just going to have scoring at a premium in this game. If you look at what Auburn did to Baylor, they ran the ball for like 300 yards on Baylor. We'll talk about them a little bit in a second. And that was why Jackson Arnold only had to attempt like under 20 passes. And he looks good when he only has to attempt under 20 passes, especially when you're throwing to Eric Singleton and Cam Coleman, right? He's going to have to throw more than 20 passes. Brent Venables is not going to let a team run for 300 on them and take the pressure off the quarterback. Venables is very familiar with Mr. Arnold, and he's going to make him beat him because he thinks he can get Arnold to have turnovers. But on the flip side of that, Hugh Freeze and Auburn, and they think a very similar thing about John Mateer. And I kind of think that they are right. I don't really think that offense has been put in a pressure cooker yet, and Mateer has been forced to make plays where he is also turnover prone throughout his whole career. And so I just think 7 is a little bit too much for a very emotional game. I'm sure it went without saying this week in the OU locker room how much this game means to Venables. And I'm sure it went without saying this week in the Auburn locker room how much this game means to Arnold. So I think you're going to see a very up game from both teams. And when you have that, 7 is a lot. And so we like Auburn plus the 7 for 2 units. We like Nebraska plus the 3 for 2 units. Again, we do not love it because it is just a number that we played there. You cannot have a plus 3 in this game and not take it. These teams are evenly matched in that the strength of one is the weakness in theory of the other. So Nebraska should be able to throw the ball at will, and Michigan should be able to run the ball at will. Nebraska is at home, and they're catching the plus 3, so we cannot pass that up. I think Michigan will run for over 150. If they get into a range where they're running for over 200, then they will probably win. If they're in the 150 to 200 range, that means there's going to be enough times where they're forced to make a crucial throw. And while I like Underwood and have faith in him, my question is, do the Michigan wide receivers get any separation? Which I think the answer is no, because I don't think they're any good. And then on the flip side, I don't see the Michigan secondary having a great day against Nebraska's passing attack. I also don't think Nebraska's going to really run the ball here, though, which is why, like I said, I don't love this one. There's a bit of my intuition that tells me Michigan's going to win this game, but that's because it's always hard to envision the passing team beating the running team, right? It's just like intuitively in football, you think to yourself, this team has the rushing attack, like that sets in over time. There's less variance in a rushing attack than in a passing attack, less chances for turnovers, things like that. But that doesn't always happen. Like, there's a lot of times where a passing team beats a running team in games. And you also have the coaching topic here. You have a significantly better coaching staff on the, not just the fact, I mean, Moore missing isn't a big deal. Moore's a moron, so it doesn't really matter. But you have the coaching staff entirely with Rule that is better than the coaching staff at Michigan, even with the defensive coordinator change. Maybe at just defensive coordinator level, Michigan is better, but the overall coaching staff at Nebraska is a lot better. And I think Lincoln's going to be up for this one. Similar to the Colorado game last year. So yeah, we'll see. Don't love that one though, guys. I do not love Nebraska plus 3 in that. Like I said, there's something about an intuition that tells me Michigan's gonna win, but you have to play the number. And Nebraska plus 3 is what you take when you can get it. So Nebraska plus 3 for 2 units. If you guys didn't place that one when we gave it out and you can't get Nebraska plus 3 anymore, do not take it. Like, that's not something. I do not take Nebraska plus 1.5. There's just don't bet. Just don't bet the game. All right, now we're going into the evening window. We're going to start out Arizona State plus 3 for 2 units. Coming back to Baylor. Like we said when we were talking about Auburn, the way they beat Baylor was they ran the ball for like 300 yards against Baylor. Come back to what Arizona State did to get back in that game against Mississippi State. It was hand the ball off, hand the ball off, hand the ball off, hand the ball off. They don't have Scadaboo anymore, but they have a stable of running backs. And then when they need to, they have a quarterback and a wide receiver combo with Levitt and Tyson that can burn you. Arizona State catching 3 here is too many for a Baylor team that, whether it was when they played SMU whether it was when they played Auburn, has not really shown the ability defensively to stop anyone, especially teams who run the ball. And I like Arizona State's ability to do that in this game. And another thing that is being missed a bit in the Arizona State loss to Mississippi State is really defensively. They played a great game for about 50 minutes. They started out the game soft defensively, and on the very last drive, they gave up a busted coverage. But Arizona State has been pretty solid defensively so far this season. I don't think that necessarily means that in Waco, Sawyer Robinson isn't going to have a good day. I think he will. I think Sawyer Robinson's going to have a good day against pretty much anybody he plays this year. But I also think that on a number here, Arizona State catching 3 is something that you can't pass up. I like it more than I like the Nebraska plus the 3. I do, but it is also a bit of a number thing in that, like, well, we're not gonna not take Arizona State plus 3. So anyway, that one's also for 2 units. We're taking Florida plus the 7.5 for 2 units. It's too many points. I'm also concerned about is Florida dead? And have they given up? And will this be a game where they show you that they want Napier fired? Never happened last year. I hope it doesn't happen here, because then we'll be dead on arrival. You'll know within the first quarter, oh, we're fucked. But Carson Beck being in people, like, he threw 2 picks last week. He threw a touchdown against Notre Dame that should have been an interception, but it was an amazing catch. Florida's defense is different than what they've currently faced. We told you Notre Dame didn't have a good pass defense. They didn't have a good pass defense last year. USF, we told you it was a terrible matchup for USF, mainly because they didn't have a very good pass defense either. This is a very good defense that he's facing in Florida, as long as they show up. And if they do, I don't think you're going to see Timmy from South Park like you saw last year, but I think you're going to see Carson Beck come a little bit back down to earth. And if he does that, 7.5 is too many with Florida. So we're taking Florida plus the 7.5. Hopefully Lagway doesn't. I mean, we got the push last week with the Florida and LSU, but hopefully Lagway doesn't throw 13 interceptions. Yeah. And hopefully Florida runs the ball. God. Anyway. If you choose not to play that one, I wouldn't blame you. If you think Florida is dead and they're not going to show up that they're dead on arrival and they're not showing up. Because like I said, if that happens, you're going to know in the first quarter that we're done. But if they do show up, 7.5 is too many points for this game. These teams are separated by maybe 3.5. Even with the game at Miami, these teams are separated by like 3.5. They're not a full touchdown gap between each other. Okay, we will add throughout the night, and before I come to my last pick, because it's my favorite pick of the year so far, so I'll talk about it at the end. We will add throughout today a pick on South Carolina, Missouri, and then a pick on our 11 p.m. kickoff game between USC and Michigan State. We're watching the line movement on those because there's been such significant movement. I think USC started out at like minus 16. They're all the way out to like minus 19 now. And obviously there's been massive movement on Missouri, South Carolina because of Lenora Sellers' injury. So it started out Missouri minus 14. I think you can get it all the way down now to Missouri minus 9.5 at some places. And you can still get South Carolina plus 10.5 depending on the location. Those games kick off much 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. So we are watching that line movement, or lack thereof line movement, as I always say. So I will I will give a community post in terms of finalizing what those picks are and what the units are on those. But then the last one, we've already given it out. It is our favorite play of the year so far. It is, if it was later in the season, it would be a 20 unit play. It is a 10 unit play because it is only week 4. I was tempted to go 20 units, and now I wish I'd had with what the line has done. This game's going to be a blowout. Indiana minus 3.5 against Illinois for 10 units. Illinois is not a good football team. They were not a good football team last year. This is a mismatch in terms of what Indiana does and what Illinois does. I think Cignetti makes a statement tonight. I do not, barring injury, there is not a world where I see Illinois keeping this one close. Illinois is not good. They're not a good football team. And Indiana they're very good. So I think they just kind of smother them. And unless Illinois gets their magical turnover machine going, which Indiana doesn't really turn the ball over, it's going to get away from them. So yeah, it's my favorite pick of the year so far. It's my favorite pick of the day. It will probably be my favorite play of the year for a few weeks because there isn't like another one coming on the horizon that I see that I love as much. But yeah, Indiana minus 3.5 for 10 units. If for some reason you didn't get it when we gave it out at 3.5 for 10 units, I like it anything up to Indiana minus 10. I think it's at Indiana minus 7 now at most places. I like it all. I like it all the way up to minus 10. Like I said, I don't think it's close. I think it's a blowout. I think the game's over by halftime. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Enjoy your college football Saturday. Stay safe in whatever you're doing. We will get back at you at the community post for South Carolina, Missouri, and USC, Michigan State. Thanks again. Enjoy the day. Like, share, comment. Let me know what you guys think.